So I've been running an agency doing retainers, and I've been running an agency doing pay per appointment. And in this video, I'm just going to give you my honest review on both models and which one I think is best to run in 2026. So let's just dive right in. For context, the one I was running on retainers was doing around 50K a month. That was 1 year ago. And then I started a new agency, and that one is doing around 75K with pay per appointment. So yeah, let's dive in. So if we start with the retainer model, the pros for that is that the income is predictable. And what I mean by that is obviously these payments are coming in from your clients every month. And also if you're, for instance, charging like a paid in full upfront for 3 months, you'll have really good cash flow to basically reinvest back into ads and thereby scale faster. So that is one pro there. Then there's also some cons. So especially if you're newer, it's going to be hard for you selling this because they're basically taking a big gamble on you to be able to fulfill on them. Especially if you're trying to sell these piffs up front and you don't have that much social proof or reviews and all of that. The next thing is misaligned incentives. What I mean by that is when you sign them up, whether you get them 10 appointments or 20 appointments, for you it doesn't really matter that much because you're getting paid anyways. And that is a trap that you can easily fall into where you're like, okay, I've gotten my money. Now I'll just kind of like do a decent job on fulfilling for them, compared to the pay per appointment where you're fully on performance basis. Also, you're more on a capped income. Yes, you can, for instance, charge like 500 more per $1,500 ad spend, but you aren't really able to scale it because every time they scale ad spend, you kind of need to negotiate a new fee. Where if it's, for instance, a performance based model, is like, okay, if you increase ad spend, I'm just naturally going to make more money, and there's no real argument about it. And that also means it's easier for you to push your clients with a pay per appointment model to spend more money on ads because you don't have to basically negotiate a new like a monthly fee with them. The thing is also, I've experienced that the churn rate is higher. The reason for that is because if you, for instance, are in a bad season or if you are experiencing bad results, they're still paying that amount. If you've had a shit month with that client, they still need to pay the 2K or 2.5K or 1.5K or whatever, even though the results haven't been great. And they will definitely leave then. Or you need to have a really good customer success team in place then that are just going to sell them all the time on why they should stay with you, which is also something you can obviously do. But it just becomes this thing where at the end of the month, when they see that upcoming payment, they need to decide in their head if they want to stay with you or if they want to leave. And that's definitely also a big con of that model. Then we have the pay per appointment model, the one that I'm running right now. So you can make your offer way more irresistible. And I would say this is arguably the best offer to run or the best model to run, especially if you are new in the game and you're trying to build your reputation. Because if you're, for instance, doing cold SMS, cold email, whatever, cold calling, you can literally just go in and pitch them a no-brainer offer. Hey, we're going to run your ads. We're going to prove a appointment setter inside your business that are going to call all of these leads and book them into appointment for you. You only pay per shown appointment. That is an absolute no-brainer if you can articulate yourself well and you can basically showcase that you know what you're talking about, because it's purely performance based. And then once you have more proof, you can move up the ladder and you can start charging like a fee up front for getting things rolling, which can then cover your marketing cost. So you can really go like deep on the offer. You can play a lot around with it. And also you have a really good like downsell ladder as well, because let's say you pitch like an enrollment fee plus the performance and they just like they don't want to do it. you have them on the phone, you can always just downsell them and tell them, hey, you can get the first X appointment for free, but you still have to pay the enrollment fee, and then you get some cash in there and you get a new client. That's a way to do it as well. Next thing is like your incentives are just perfectly aligned, because like I remember at the beginning when I started getting my first clients, everything just mattered so much more because it was like performance based, which definitely makes sense. So you're like first looking at, okay, what is your cost per lead? Is that within KPI? Are we getting bookings? Are these bookings actually showing? Because when the clients are texting you that these leads are no showing and you are getting paid by that, it hurts a lot, and thereby you want to fix it. And it's the same if you aren't getting bookings but are getting a lot of leads. You're going in and you're dialing in your call center team, because I remember I experienced that, and I was just so more incentivized to getting that done when I was on this performance-based model. The thing is also your earnings are kind of uncapped. You can have clients making upwards to you can make upwards to 15K or 20K or 100K. Like the sky is the limit if you work with big enough companies. I'm not saying I'm making 100K from a client, but I've been making upwards to $15,000 from one client, and I have several clients paying me 4K, 6K, 7K a month, because it's a performance-based model, and if you're spending like $400, $500 or $1,000 a day, it makes sense that I'm making that amount from them. And then also you have lower churn, so that just goes in with what I was talking about earlier on, with the fact that at the end of the month, with the retainer, they're kind of deciding whether or not they would like to stay. Where here is more like on the go. It's like if you aren't getting the best results, they aren't getting charged for those appointments, and that just means they aren't like burning money. Obviously, they're burning the money on the ads, but if you just have a couple of weeks that are a bit slower, which can be natural, then eventually they aren't just going to churn because they've had one bad month. Then we have the cons. So basically, the high sales friction. Oh, that was actually from the one up here. Sorry, but anyways, so what are the cons with the pay per appointment model? I would say it's the predictability of like income, because one month you can like make a lot from a client, and the next month you aren't making that much from it, which means the predictability can be a bit harder. But at the same time, you kind of like gain insights to approximately how much you're going to make from each client, and that just helps you with getting that predictability. It's not like you're not able to cover payroll just because you're having a bad month. There's still a lot of wiggle room, in my opinion. So yeah, that's my take on the cons. So how to actually implement the pay per appointment blueprint? So the first step is to basically have a structure. So this is depending on where you're at in your agency. If you're just doing cold outbound, I would probably recommend just pitching $0 to enroll or $500 to enroll, like a small amount, and then just getting a bunch of clients in. Because you should already be in the mindset of getting into paid ads and having money to run that, because that's how you can really like predictably grow, and also how you can scale. So when you have the money for doing paid ads, I would then encourage you to basically pitch an enrollment fee plus the pay per appointment, or plus whatever, pay per close, whatever you want to do, pay per lead. Because when you have that enrollment fee, you can basically cover your marketing cost for acquiring clients, which means you can spend way more money on ads, and you can thereby grow faster and sign more clients. So that's one thing that is really important. Then there's the billing side of things. So something that is super important here that I've learned is that you always want to set the expectations that you're charging for. Let's just say your offer here is you're charging per shown appointment. You always want to say that you charge for the appointment when you schedule it. The reason for that is because you are then getting the power. And a lot of times, if you're waiting for after the consultation, for instance, or the appointment, they can complain about lead quality, and it hurts a bit. It hurts way more for them than paying the money if they aren't like 100% sure that they will close the appointment. Therefore, it's important just to charge when you schedule the appointment, and then you can add credits. So if they no show, if you completely miss the mark on qualifying them, you can then give them free credit towards the next appointment. Then we have step 3, which is niche selection. So something to keep in mind is also the buying behavior in different, like in the niches are different. So let's, for instance, take the remodeling niche. The big players in that market are like Angie's and Home Advisor and Thumbtack, and that means these companies are used to paying for performance basis. They're used for paying for leads, and that means it's just more natural for them to be happy with paying per appointment, for instance. It's the same in roofing, for instance. I think that would also be a great niche to basically do pay per appointment in. Where we have more the medical niches, I don't think the performance basis necessarily would be the best, because you would charge less per qualified appointment because the ticket size is lower compared to remodeling, for instance, where it's larger jobs. And like their buying behavior is normally like branding programs. They're paying like for these big packages, and therefore I think like charging a paid in full is a better option in that model, just because it's more natural in that industry to do that. And that was also what I did when I was in the telemedicine space. We were charging a 6K paid in full, which worked great. So yeah, that is my take on pay per appointment versus retainer. So I hope that was valuable. See you later.